Every single day, you make countless choices what to eat, how to react to a difficult email, whether to scroll a little longer or put the phone down. Most seem insignificant in the moment, but what if I told you these tiny, repeated decisions are silently sculpting the person you're becoming? The ancient Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That insight is the key to everything we're about to explore. It's not what happens to us that defines us, but how we choose to interpret and respond. Your identity isn't fixed. It isn't something you're born with or stuck with. It's built decision by decision, judgment by judgment, in the quiet moments nobody else sees. And that's exactly what this video is about. The 22 micro-decisions rooted in Stoic philosophy that can help you forge an unbreakable identity, one that remains steady, resilient, and truly yours, no matter what life throws your way. This isn't about grand gestures or drastic overhauls. It's about the small, consistent practices like pausing to reframe a negative thought or willingly stepping into slight discomfort that accumulate into profound inner strength. These are the same principles that guided figures like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius himself, and they're just as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. Maybe even more. So if you've ever felt pulled by external pressures, knocked off center by unexpected challenges, or simply wondered how to live with more purpose and less anxiety, you're in the right place. This is a journey into the heart of Stoic wisdom, adapted for modern life. We'll explore how shifting your perceptions, embracing difficulty voluntarily, and focusing only on what you can control can completely transform your sense of self. By the end, you'll have a practical toolkit of micro-actions, small but powerful choices, that you can start applying today to build a calmer, stronger, and more resilient you. Let's begin. Your first Stoic decision is to reclaim control over your perceptions. This is the foundational stone upon which an unbreakable identity is built. The core idea, championed by the philosopher Epictetus, is incredibly simple yet profoundly life-altering. Events in the world are, in and of themselves, completely neutral. They hold no inherent emotional charge. It is our judgment, our internal assessment of those events that gives them power over us. The rain isn't good or bad, it's just water falling from the sky. It becomes a ruined picnic or a blessing for the garden based solely on the story we tell ourselves about it. The Stoics drew a clear line between what happens to us, the external event, and our internal response to it. That space between stimulus and reaction is where your freedom and your resilience truly live. It's the difference between being at the mercy of every circumstance and becoming the calm, steady captain of your own ship, regardless of the storms outside. Epictetus put it perfectly when he said, "We are disturbed not by things, but by the views which we take of them." Think about the weight of that statement. The irritation you feel in traffic, the anxiety before a big presentation, the hurt from a critical comment, none of these emotions are caused by the events themselves. They are generated by your interpretation of them. The traffic jam is just a line of cars. Your judgment labels it a waste of time, and frustration follows. The presentation is just a conversation. Your judgment frames it as a test of your worth, and anxiety appears. This isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about understanding their true source. When you realize you are the author of your emotional experience, you stop being a victim of the world and start becoming its interpreter. Consider a practical example. Imagine two employees receiving the exact same critical feedback from their manager. The first employee immediately makes a judgment. My boss is attacking me. They think I'm incompetent. This is a personal insult. This interpretation triggers a cascade of negative emotions, defensiveness, anger, self-doubt. Their entire day is ruined, and their relationship with their boss becomes strained. The second employee hears the same words but makes a different judgment. They think, this is valuable data. My boss is investing in my growth by pointing out an area for improvement. This is an opportunity to get better. This reframing leads to curiosity, gratitude, and motivation. The external event was identical, but the internal judgments created two entirely different realities and emotional outcomes. One judgment weakens, the other strengthens. Which one do you more commonly choose? This power to reframe is a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice. It starts with a moment of pause, a conscious breath between what happens and how you decide to see it. It's about asking yourself a simple but powerful question. Is there another, more constructive way to view this situation? You are not denying reality. You are simply choosing the most empowering perspective available within it. This is the essence of emotional resilience. It's not about having a thick skin that nothing can pierce. It's about developing a nimble mind that can find footing and advantage on any terrain. So, bring this into your own life right now. Can you recall a recent situation where a simple shift in your judgment completely changed your emotional outcome? Perhaps a plan that fell apart, which you initially saw as a failure but later realized created space for a better opportunity. That moment of conscious reframing is you practicing the first and most vital Stoic micro-decision. What if your relentless pursuit of comfort is actually making you more fragile? It's a counterintuitive thought, but it sits at the heart of our second Stoic micro-decision, the conscious choice to practice voluntary discomfort. The Roman philosopher Seneca was a powerful advocate for this idea, urging us to periodically step into small, manageable hardships. His reasoning was profound. By willingly experiencing slight deprivations, we inoculate ourselves against the shock and fear of unforeseen misfortune. We build a reservoir of resilience that we can draw from when life inevitably serves up challenges we didn't choose. This practice isn't about self-punishment or masochism. It's a form of training. Just as an athlete lifts weights to strengthen their body for competition, we seek out minor discomforts to fortify our minds for the struggles of life. It's a proactive strategy to reduce our anxiety about losing what we have because we prove to ourselves through direct experience that we can handle less. Seneca put it beautifully when he advised, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?' That final question is the entire point." By voluntarily experiencing a small taste of poverty or hardship, we demystify it. We confront the monster under the bed and discover it's not a monster at all, but merely a shadow we can live with. This practice shatters the illusion that our happiness is permanently tied to our external circumstances. We learn that a simple meal can be just as satisfying as a lavish one, that a quiet evening without digital entertainment can be more restorative than hours of scrolling, and that we are far more adaptable and capable than our comfort-seeking minds lead us to believe. This principle has been embodied by remarkable figures throughout history, from ancient Stoics to modern leaders. Think of the successful CEO who still drives an old car, not because they can't afford a new one, but to remind themselves that their worth isn't tied to their possessions. Consider the practice of a digital detox, voluntarily disconnecting from the constant stream of notifications and information. This modern form of voluntary discomfort strengthens our focus and reduces our dependency on external validation. Even something as simple as taking a cold shower, walking instead of driving, or skipping a meal isn't just about physical discipline. It's a mental rehearsal for adversity. It's a small, controlled moment where you say to your impulses, "I am in charge, not you." Each time you do this, you reinforce the neural pathways of self-mastery and weaken the chains of dependency. The true power of this practice is revealed not during the comfortable days, but during the difficult ones. When you face a real financial setback, the memory of having voluntarily lived on a tight budget for a week will calm your panic. When you encounter a professional failure, the practice of having embraced small, unpleasant tasks will make you more resilient to the sting of rejection. You have, in a sense, already been there. You have a reference point for hardship that is not tied to trauma, but to your own choice and strength. This built-in confidence is priceless. It allows you to meet misfortune not with terror, but with a calm acknowledgement that you have the tools to handle it. So, the invitation this week is a practical one. What is one small, voluntary discomfort you can introduce into your routine? It could be as simple as leaving your phone behind on a walk, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or fasting from complaining for an entire day. Choose one thing that feels slightly challenging but completely manageable, and use it as your daily training for a more resilient and unbreakable self. Stoicism teaches that your power lies solely in your choices and actions. This is the essence of the third micro-decision: to consciously define your sphere of control and invest your precious energy only within its boundaries. The ancient Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, a simple yet transformative mental model that acts like a filter for your attention. Imagine your mind as a spotlight. You can either shine it on the vast, chaotic theater of external events, what other people say, the weather, the stock market, the past, and feel overwhelmed and anxious because you cannot direct the play. Or you can focus that beam of light tightly on the one thing you truly command, your own performance on that stage, your judgments, your intentions, your efforts, and your responses. This act of refocusing is not a passive surrender, it is an active and empowering choice. It is the decision to stop trying to change the wind and instead adjust your own sails. The profound benefit of this practice is a dramatic reduction in anxiety and a massive increase in personal effectiveness. When you stop wasting mental energy agonizing over outcomes you cannot dictate, you free up an enormous amount of focus and clarity for the things you can actually influence. Anxiety, at its core, is often a misallocation of attention towards the uncontrollable. By clearly drawing that line, you drain the power from those worries. You stop being a passenger who is frantic about the turbulence and become the pilot who is focused on flying the plane as well as possible, regardless of the conditions outside. This isn't about becoming detached or uncaring. It's about caring more effectively. You channel your concern into constructive action within your domain, rather than dissipating it as frustration over things beyond your reach. Epictetus, who began his life as a slave and understood true powerlessness better than most, framed this idea with stunning clarity. He wrote, "Some things are within our power while others are not." Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Our actions are ours, the results of those actions are not. We can control how hard we study for an exam. We cannot control the exact questions that appear. We can control preparing thoroughly for a job interview. We cannot control the other candidates or the final decision of the hiring manager. We can control being kind and respectful to a partner. We cannot control their feelings or reactions. The moment we tie our sense of peace and self-worth to the uncontrollable outcomes, we hand over the reins of our happiness to the unpredictable chaos of the world. To bring this into your daily life, start practicing this differentiation. The next time you feel a spike of stress or worry, pause and perform a quick audit. Take that concern and mentally place it into one of two categories. Is this thing within my control, or is it outside of it? If it's outside, like the weather, a traffic jam, or another person's opinion, your only productive response is acceptance. To fight against it is to argue with reality, and that is a battle you will always lose. If it is within your control, like your preparation, your attitude, or the effort you will exert, then your path is clear. Take focused, purposeful action. Worrying about the rain is futile. Deciding to bring an umbrella is powerful. This simple act of categorization is a revolutionary tool for mental peace. So let's make this practical right now. Grab a piece of paper or just open a note on your phone. I want you to list 3 things that are currently occupying mental space. 3 things you find yourself worrying about. Now draw a line down the center of your page. On one side, right within my control. On the other, right outside my control. Now place each of your 3 worries into its proper column. That project deadline at work, the outcome might be outside your control, but the effort, focus, and time you dedicate to it today are entirely within it. A disagreement with a friend, their feelings are outside your control, but your approach to the conversation, your willingness to listen, and your commitment to acting with integrity are not. This exercise isn't just theoretical. It's a direct mapping of where your power truly resides and where you should direct your attention. By consistently making this micro-decision to focus on your sphere of control, you build an identity that is defined not by what happens to you, but by how you choose to respond. How often do you truly pause to review your day, not just replaying events in your head, but actively assessing the quality of your choices and your alignment with your deepest values? In the relentless flow of modern life, we often move from one task to the next, one day to the other, without ever stopping to look at the map to see if we're still heading in the direction we intended. This is why the 4th micro-decision is so vital, the conscious choice to engage in a daily practice of Stoic reflection. This isn't about dwelling on the past or indulging in self-criticism. It's a structured process of self-examination designed for continuous improvement and virtuous living. The Stoics saw this as essential maintenance for the soul, a way to polish your character each evening so you can face the next day with greater clarity and purpose. It's the tool that turns experience into wisdom. The immense value of this practice lies in its power to break the cycle of unconscious repetition. Without reflection, we are prone to making the same mistakes, reacting with the same unhelpful patterns, and reinforcing the same biases day after day. The evening review acts as a circuit breaker. It creates a sacred space between the day that has ended and the night of rest that follows, allowing you to sift through the events with a calm and objective mind. You get to celebrate the moments where you acted with courage and integrity, and you get to calmly acknowledge the moments where you fell short, not to punish yourself, but to learn and prepare to do better next time. This process transforms your life into your own personal philosophy classroom, where every single day provides the raw material for your growth. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, famously practiced this himself. Amidst the immense pressures of ruling an empire, he would end his days with honest self-assessment. In his personal writings, which we know as meditations, he provides a model for this, asking himself questions like, what bad habit have you cured today? What fault have you resisted? In what way are you better? His focus wasn't on external achievements, but on internal progress. He was less concerned with whether he won a battle, and more concerned with whether he fought it with wisdom and justice. This nightly audit, it was his way of ensuring that the power of his position never corrupted his character, and that he remained steadfastly committed to his principles. regardless of the chaos around him. Implementing this doesn't require a leather-bound journal or hours of deep contemplation. A simple, effective template can be completed in just 5 minutes before you sleep. First, ask yourself, what went well today? Where did I act in accordance with my values? Maybe you practiced patience in a frustrating line, offered kindness to a stranger, or finally started a task you'd been avoiding. Acknowledge and savor these victories. They reinforce positive behavior. Second, and this requires gentle honesty, what could have been improved? Where did I miss the mark? Perhaps you snapped at a loved one, succumbed to a distraction, or acted out of envy. The key is to observe this without self-flagellation. See it as data, not damnation. Finally, extract the lesson. What did this teach me about myself? How will I apply this insight tomorrow? This final step closes the loop, turning a past misstep into a future strategy. This practice of nightly closure ensures you don't carry the baggage of today's mistakes into tomorrow's opportunities. It allows you to learn from the day and then let it go, preventing unresolved regrets from poisoning your sleep or your mindset upon waking. You end the day not with a sense of overwhelm, but with a sense of purposeful progress, no matter how small. The invitation tonight is beautifully simple. Instead of reaching for your phone one last time, gift yourself just 5 minutes of quiet reflection. Ask yourself those 3 questions: what went well, what could be improved, and what was the lesson? This single micro-decision, repeated, becomes the compounding interest of self-awareness, steadily building the unbreakable identity of someone who learns from every single day. What if you learn to not just accept, but to genuinely love everything that happens to you, the setbacks, the delays, the unexpected detours, and even the outright failures? This is the radical invitation of the 5th micro-decision, to embrace the concept of amor-fati, a Latin phrase that translates to a love of one's fate. While the philosopher Nietzsche famously coined the term, its spirit is deeply Stoic. It is the ultimate expression of taking back your power, not by resisting reality, but by embracing it so completely that you see every single event, especially the difficult ones, as not just something to be endured, but as a necessary and beneficial part of your unique path. This mindset is the alchemy that transforms leaden adversity into golden opportunity. It is the decision to trust the process of your life entirely, believing that nothing that happens to you is wasted and everything is somehow woven into the fabric of your strength and wisdom. This is far more than passive resignation or simply making the best of a bad situation. Amor-fati is an active, enthusiastic endorsement of life on its own terms. It's the profound understanding that the obstacles and challenges are not mistakes in the script, they are the script. They are the very experiences that forge character, build resilience, and provide the contrast that makes joy meaningful. When you adopt this lens, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this happening for me?" This subtle shift in questioning completely changes your orientation to difficulty. You become a detective looking for the hidden lesson, a sculptor who sees the beautiful form hidden within the rough marble of a challenging circumstance. Adversity ceases to be a threat to your peace and becomes the raw material for creating an unbreakable identity. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself in the midst of war and plague, captured this idea perfectly. He counseled himself, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Let that image sit with you for a moment." A weak, dying fire is choked and extinguished by a log that is too green or too large. But a blazing, robust fire, a fire that has been well built and carefully tended, uses that same log as fuel. It doesn't just tolerate the log, it consumes it and transforms it into more light and more heat. Your mindset is that fire. When you practice amor-fati, you are building a mental inferno so strong that anything life throws at you can be used as fuel for your growth. A criticism, a financial loss, a personal betrayal, these are all just logs. The question is your inner fire strong enough to transform them into brilliance? Consider a practical, modern example. Imagine an aspiring writer who receives a stack of rejection letters from publishers. The conventional, non-Stoic response might be to see this as a clear sign of failure, to feel dejected, and perhaps to even give up on the dream altogether. The writer practicing amor-fati, however, makes a different micro-decision. They choose to love this rejection. They reframe it not as a door slammed in their face, but as necessary feedback. They think, this is perfect. This is forcing me to hone my craft, to make my manuscript stronger. This period of rejection is building the perseverance I will need to handle the pressures of success later. It is weeding out the less dedicated writers and ensuring that only those truly committed to the art will proceed. This loving acceptance of their current fate doesn't guarantee they will get published, but it guarantees that they will not be defeated by the process. It turns a potential ending into a pivotal chapter in their larger story of growth. This week, you can begin to practice this transformative shift. Think of one recent difficulty you faced. It doesn't have to be a monumental tragedy. It can be a daily frustration, a project that was cancelled, a plan that fell through, a minor conflict. Now, instead of just shrugging it off or venting about it, I challenge you to engage in a deliberate act of reframing. Ask yourself, how can this situation be a hidden gift? What strength did it force me to use? What lesson about myself or others did it reveal? What door might have closed so that a better, more aligned one could open? By consciously searching for the benefit, you are not denying the difficulty. You are simply choosing to focus on the part of it that serves your growth. You are making the micro-decision to love your fate in all its messy, unpredictable perfection, and in doing so, you become the unwavering author of your own resilience. Imagine for a moment that the thing you value most, your career, your closest relationship, your health, was suddenly gone, not as a morbid fantasy, but as a deliberate mental exercise. This is the heart of our sixth Stoic micro-decision, the conscious practice of negative visualization, or what the Romans called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. At first glance, visualizing loss might seem counterproductive, even pessimistic, but the Stoic purpose is exactly the opposite. This practice is not about dwelling on fear. It's about systematically dismantling the power that fear and attachment have over us. It is a profound technique to inoculate yourself against the shock of misfortune, and more importantly, to ignite a fierce and immediate appreciation for the blessings you currently possess. By periodically contemplating the temporary nature of all things, you don't become saddened. You become profoundly grateful and psychologically prepared. The mechanism at work here is a form of emotional and cognitive conditioning. Our minds have a well-documented tendency to adapt to positive circumstances, a phenomenon known as hedonic adaptation. We get a new car, a promotion, or enter a wonderful relationship, and after an initial surge of joy, we quickly come to take it for granted. It becomes our new normal, our baseline. Negative visualization is the deliberate antidote to this taking for granted. It shocks your system out of complacency by asking you to temporarily revoke that adaptation. You are consciously choosing to feel the potential loss now so that you can fully appreciate the presence now. This does two powerful things simultaneously. It dramatically increases your baseline level of daily gratitude, and it robs future misfortune of its element of devastating surprise. If you have already mentally rehearsed a loss, its actual occurrence feels less like a catastrophic ambush and more like a scenario you have, in some way, prepared for and know you can navigate. The Stoic philosopher Seneca, one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in Rome, was a staunch advocate of this practice. He understood that his fortune was precarious and that becoming attached to it would be a source of future pain. He advised we should love all of our dear ones, but always with the thought that we have no promise that we may keep them forever, nay, no promise even that we may keep them for long. He wasn't suggesting we live in a state of paranoid anxiety, but that we anchor our love in the sobering and liberating truth of impermanence. This reflection makes our time with loved ones more precious, our conversations more meaningful, and our attention more focused. We stop taking the people in our lives for granted because we have viscerally imagined what it would be like to not have them. This practice makes every ordinary moment feel a little more extraordinary. Let's make this practical. You don't need to imagine grand tragedies to benefit from this. Start small and controlled. The next time you're enjoying a warm, hassle-free morning with your family, pause for just 15 seconds. Mentally play a movie in your mind where this peace is interrupted by an argument or a stressful event. Notice how this immediately makes the present tranquility feel more vivid and valuable. Or when you are in good health, take a moment to truly feel what it would be like to lose your mobility for a week, to be confined to a bed, unable to go for a walk or easily care for yourself. This isn't to make you sad, but to make you incredibly grateful for the simple, unthinking ability to move your body without pain. Even something as simple as imagining your favorite cafe closing down can make your next visit there feel more special. The goal is to briefly touch the feeling of loss so you can release it and return to the present with renewed eyes. This mental rehearsal is a form of strength training for your resilience. By regularly visiting these potential futures in your mind, you build the emotional muscle memory to handle difficulty. It's the difference between a soldier who has never seen combat and one who has undergone rigorous simulations. The veteran may still feel fear, but they won't be paralyzed by it. They will have a repertoire of responses to draw upon. Negative visualization is your personal simulation lab for life's challenges. It allows you to experience and process the emotion of loss in a safe environment where you are in control of the exercise. This builds a deep, quiet confidence that you can handle whatever comes your way because in a very real sense you already have. So here is your invitation to practice. Sometime today, I want you to choose one thing you deeply appreciate but likely take for granted. It could be your eyesight, your comfortable home, your supportive partner, or even the reliable device you're using to watch this. Close your eyes for just 1 minute and mentally rehearse what it would be like if it were gone. Don't just think about it abstractly. Try to feel the emotions that would accompany that loss. Sit with that feeling for a few breaths, then open your eyes and return to the present reality, where that blessing is still yours. Notice the immediate wave of gratitude and relief that washes over you. That powerful, positive emotion is the entire point. You have not created fear. You have discovered a profound and immediate thankfulness that was always available, simply waiting for you to pause and recognize it. This is the micro-decision that turns ordinary life into a continuous source of wonder. True strength comes from aligning your actions with your values, not with the hope of a reward or the fear of a punishment. This is the 7th micro-decision, and it cuts to the very core of what it means to build an unbreakable identity, the conscious choice to act with integrity, simply because it is the right thing to do. For the Stoics, the only true good was a virtuous character, a mind that chooses wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. Everything else, wealth, reputation, power, even our own health, was classified as a preferred indifferent. These things have value and can make life more comfortable, but they are not essential to a good life. A good life is defined solely by the quality of your choices. This perspective is incredibly liberating. It means your worth and your success are no longer held hostage by external results, which are often unpredictable and unfair. Your success is redefined entirely. You are successful the moment you choose the virtuous action, regardless of the outcome that follows. Your integrity becomes its own reward. This focus on internal virtue over external validation is what makes a Stoic truly resilient. If your sense of self is tied to getting a promotion, you will be shattered if you are passed over, even if you did everything right. But if your sense of self is tied to having prepared thoroughly, acted with professionalism, and treated your colleagues with respect, then your success is already secure. No one can take that inner victory away from you. The outcome becomes a separate event, one you can analyze and learn from, but not one that defines you. This is how you build an identity that is unbreakable. It is forged in the fire of your own principles, not molded by the shifting sands of external circumstance. You become like a deep-rooted tree that may lose leaves in a storm but remains steadfast because its strength comes from within. The philosopher Epictetus, who taught that our chief task in life is to discern our duty and then do it unflinchingly, offered powerful guidance on this. He said, "Remember that you are an actor in a play, which is as the playwright wants it to be, short if he wants it short, long if he wants it long. If he wants you to play a beggar, play even that part well, just as you would if it were a cripple, a public official, or a private citizen. For this is your duty, to play well the part you are given, but selecting that part belongs to another." This metaphor is profound. You cannot control the role life assigns you, whether you are born into wealth or poverty, whether you experience health or sickness. But you have absolute control over how you play that role. You can play the part of a wealthy person with generosity and humility, or with greed and arrogance. You can play the part of someone facing illness with courage and grace, or with self-pity and bitterness. Your character is revealed not by the role, but by your performance within it. The real test of this integrity happens in the small, unseen moments. It's the decision to correct the cashier who gives you too much change, even though no one is watching, and you could easily walk away. It's the choice to speak kindly about an absent colleague, even when others are engaging in gossip. It's the commitment to do your best work on a project, even when you know your manager will never notice the extra effort. These are the micro-decisions that truly build your character. Each time you choose the virtuous path in a situation where you could have gotten away with the easier, less honorable option, you are casting a vote for the person you want to become. You are reinforcing an identity of integrity so that when a major, life-altering decision arrives, your character is already strong enough to make the right choice without hesitation. Consider the example of a student studying for a crucial exam. The Stoic approach isn't to fixate on the final grade as the measure of success. Instead, the student defines success as having studied with complete focus, having understood the material to the best of their ability, and having entered the exam hall with honesty and composure. Whether they receive an A or a C, their core success, their integrity in the process remains intact. The grade becomes feedback on their strategy, not a verdict on their worth. This mindset eliminates the temptation to cheat because cheating would be a far greater failure, a failure of character, than any low score could ever be. It transforms the entire experience from a stressful performance into a peaceful practice of virtue. So let's bring this into your own life with a direct challenge. I want you to pause and identify one specific area, however small, where your actions might not be in perfect alignment with your deepest values. Perhaps it's a project at work where you've been cutting corners, knowing you won't get caught. Maybe it's a relationship where you haven't been fully honest about your feelings to avoid a difficult conversation. It could be as simple as a promise you made to yourself, like a commitment to health or learning that you've been consistently breaking. Identify that one gap. Now, make the micro-decision to close it, not tomorrow, but today. Choose one small action that will bring your behavior back into alignment with your principles. That single act of integrity, done for its own sake, is a powerful declaration of who you are and who you are choosing to become. It is the quiet, unstoppable force that forges an identity no external circumstance can ever break. In a world of constant noise and endless demands, cultivating a still and steady mind is not a luxury, it is your ultimate superpower. This brings us to our 8th micro-decision, the conscious choice to cultivate equanimity. Equanimity is that even-tempered calmness, that unshakable mental stability that allows you to remain balanced and composed amidst the chaos of life. It is not about becoming emotionless or detached. It is about developing the profound strength to experience your emotions without being hijacked by them. For the Stoics, this inner tranquility was the highest form of freedom, because it meant that no external event, no matter how turbulent, could disrupt the peace you have built within yourself. It is the decision to become the calm eye of the storm, a quiet center of gravity that everything else revolves around but cannot disturb. The practical path to this state is through small, deliberate techniques that you can weave into the fabric of your day. It begins with the simple but revolutionary act of pausing. Between the stimulus, the angry email, the critical comment, the sudden bad news, and your response, there exists a tiny, powerful space of possibility. The goal is to widen that space from a split second to a conscious 5-second pause. In that brief window, you are not your emotion, you are the observer of that emotion. You can notice the heat of anger rising in your chest, you can feel the cold grip of anxiety, but you do not have to immediately act on it. This practice of observation creates a critical distance. You are not suppressing the feeling, you are simply refusing to let it drive the car. You are acknowledging the passenger, but you are keeping your hands firmly on the wheel. Marcus-Aurelius, who ruled an empire perpetually on the brink of crisis, constantly reminded himself of this principle. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. His meditations were his training ground for equanimity. He was rehearsing the mental habits that would allow him to face political betrayal, military disasters, and personal loss without losing his composure or his virtue. His power wasn't in controlling the events of the empire, it was in mastering his internal reactions to them, thereby ensuring that his judgment remained clear and his actions remained just, no matter the provocation. Imagine a highly stressful situation. You're in a crucial meeting and a colleague publicly dismisses your idea in a condescending and unfair way. The immediate, automatic reaction is one of defensiveness and anger. Your heart rate spikes, your face flushes, and the urge to fire back a sharp retort is almost overwhelming. This is the critical moment for the micro-decision. Instead of that automatic reaction, you invoke your 5-second pause. You take a slow, deliberate breath. In that space, you observe the emotion, "I am feeling attacked and angry," without judgment. You then consciously choose your response. Perhaps that response is to calmly ask for more specific feedback, effectively diffusing the tension and demonstrating professionalism. Perhaps it's to simply nod and say, "I'll take that into consideration," and revisit the topic later when emotions have cooled. the outcome is no longer determined by a raw, reflexive emotion, but by a chosen, virtuous action. You handled the situation with deliberate calm, and in doing so, you strengthened your identity as a person who cannot be easily thrown off balance. This ability is a muscle that must be exercised, and the best time to build it is not in the middle of a crisis, but in the small irritations of daily life. The next time you feel a trigger, a driver cuts you off, your child spills a drink, you receive a frustrating message, see it as an opportunity to practice. Your prompt for today is this: make the micro-decision to institute a mandatory 5-second pause before you respond. When you feel that initial jolt of irritation, don't speak, don't act, don't type that angry reply. Just stop, count to 5 in your head, breathe. In that stillness, you will find a power you never knew you had, the power to choose your next move from a place of calm strength, rather than chaotic reaction. Each time you do this, you are not just avoiding a momentary conflict, you are actively constructing an unbreakable core of equanimity that will hold firm against any storm. Where does your mind spend most of its time replaying old conversations you wish had gone differently, or anxiously rehearsing scenarios that haven't even happened yet? This constant mental time travel is a primary source of our suffering, pulling us out of the only moment we ever truly have, the present. This brings us to our 9th micro-decision, a practice deeply woven into Stoic philosophy, the conscious choice to practice mindfulness of the present moment. The Stoics understood that a mind fractured between past regrets and future anxieties is a weakened mind, perpetually distracted and unable to engage fully with life as it unfolds. By deliberately anchoring our awareness in the here and now, we reclaim a tremendous amount of mental energy that was previously wasted on things we cannot change and events that may never occur. This isn't about ignoring the past or failing to plan for the future. It's about recognizing that the only place from which we can effectively learn from history or construct a better tomorrow is from a position of full engagement with the present. The profound benefit of this practice is a dramatic reduction in the background hum of anxiety that so many of us accept as normal. Anxiety is almost always future-oriented. It's the fear of a potential outcome. Similarly, depression often has strong roots in the past, lingering on things that cannot be undone. The present moment, by its very nature, is almost always manageable. Right now, as you watch this, are you in immediate physical danger? Probably not. The problem we create for ourselves is that we mentally time travel into a frightening future and then react to that imagined reality with very real, present-moment stress. The Stoic philosopher Seneca captured this perfectly with his timeless insight. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Our minds are incredible storytelling machines, and when left unchecked, they tend to write horror stories and tragedies about what might be. The practice of present-moment awareness is the process of closing that book of fiction and instead paying close attention to the actual reality of your current experience, which is almost certainly far less threatening. This doesn't require a complete lifestyle overhaul or hours of seated meditation. It begins with the simplest of micro-decisions, single tasking. In a world that glorifies multitasking, choosing to do just one thing at a time with your full attention is a radical act of Stoic mindfulness. The next time you drink a cup of coffee, for example, make the decision to just drink the coffee. Don't also scroll through your phone, mentally review your to-do list or plan your evening. Instead, bring your full attention to the experience. Notice the warmth of the mug in your hands, the rich aroma, the complex flavor as you take a sip. When your mind inevitably wanders, which it will gently guide it back to the sensory experience of drinking your coffee. This is not a failure, it is the entire practice. Each gentle return of your focus is like a rep for your mindfulness muscle, strengthening your ability to stay present when it truly matters, like during an important conversation or a challenging task. Another powerful and instantly accessible practice is mindful breathing. Your breath is an anchor that is always with you, a direct tether to the present moment. You can't breathe in the past or the future, you can only breathe right now. When you find yourself caught in a spiral of worry or regret, pause and take just 3 conscious breaths. Don't try to change your breathing, just feel it. Notice the cool air entering your nostrils, the expansion of your chest and belly, the warm air as you exhale. This simple act acts as a circuit breaker for anxious thought patterns, forcing a reset by pulling your awareness out of the stories in your head and into the physical reality of your body. This is what the Stoics meant by focusing on the here and now. It's a practical tool for interrupting needless suffering and returning to a state of calm, focused engagement with what is actually happening. The ultimate goal is to transform mundane activities into opportunities for presence. Washing the dishes, walking to your car, folding laundry. These are not distractions from your life to be rushed through. They are your life. When you perform them with full attention, you are not just completing a chore, you are practicing the art of being alive. You are training your mind to inhabit your life as it happens, rather than watching it pass by from a distance, lost in thought. This is how you build an identity that is grounded, calm, and fully responsive to the reality of each moment, rather than reactive to the phantoms of your imagination. So here is a direct and simple challenge. Today, I want you to dedicate just 10 minutes to a single activity with your complete and undivided attention. It could be listening to a piece of music without doing anything else, taking a walk without a destination or a phone, or even just sitting quietly and observing the world around you. For those 10 minutes, whenever your mind tries to pull you into the past or future, gently guide it back. This single act of focused immersion is a powerful declaration that you are choosing to live your actual life, not the one your fears and regrets are trying to write for you. You cannot control the events that unfold around you, but you can always, without exception, control your reaction to them. This is the 10th and perhaps one of the most liberating micro-decisions, the conscious choice to claim the power that exists in the space between what happens to you and what you do next. The Stoics understood that this gap, however brief, is the sacred ground where your character is both revealed and built. It is the moment of true freedom where you are presented with a fork in the road, one path led by automatic, unthinking impulse and the other by a virtuous, chosen response. Your identity isn't shaped by the stimulus itself, but by what you decide to do with that tiny, powerful pause. This is where you move from being a reactor, pushed and pulled by every external force, to becoming a conscious actor, the author of your own story. This concept was powerfully articulated by the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl, whose work was deeply inspired by Stoic principles. In the unimaginable horror of the concentration camps, Frankl observed that even when every conceivable external freedom was stripped away, one inner freedom remained absolute and could not be taken: the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. He wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Frankl's insight elevates the Stoic teaching from philosophy to lived, visceral truth. He proved that even in the most extreme suffering, the power to choose our response is the last of the human freedoms, and it is the foundation of an unbreakable identity. It means that no one can ever make you angry, bitter, or resentful. They can only provide a stimulus, and you alone get to choose the response that follows. Consider a scenario that might feel familiar. You're driving home after a long, exhausting day, and another car suddenly swerves into your lane, forcing you to slam on your brakes. The immediate, raw stimulus is a jolt of adrenaline and a surge of fear, quickly followed by the heat of anger. The automatic, conditioned response is to lay on the horn, shout an insult they can't even hear, and then spend the next 10 minutes, or even the rest of your drive, replaying the event and stewing in your own frustration. This reaction feels justified, even inevitable. But now, imagine making the micro-decision to widen that space between stimulus and response. You feel the jolt, you notice the anger rise, but instead of being the anger, you observe it. You take one deep breath. In that space you choose. You could choose patience, recognizing that you have no idea what is happening in that other driver's life. Perhaps they are panicked, rushing to an emergency, or simply made a careless mistake that they immediately regret. You could choose compassion over condemnation. This conscious choice doesn't change the event, but it changes everything about your experience of it. You arrive home calm and present, rather than agitated and distracted, able to fully engage with your family instead of bringing the turmoil of the road into your home. That is the power of the chosen response. This practice transforms ordinary daily irritations into a training ground for your character. Each time you encounter a provocation, a rude comment, a long line, a broken appliance, you are being presented with a choice. Will you hand over your inner peace to that external event, or will you retain ownership of it by choosing a response that aligns with your values? The more you practice choosing patience over irritation, kindness over rudeness, and calm over anxiety, the stronger that neural pathway becomes. It stops being a difficult conscious effort and starts becoming your natural default setting. You are building an identity of a person who is not easily shaken, a person who owns their inner world completely. To truly integrate this, take a moment to look back on your own life. Can you recall a specific time when you were faced with a difficult stimulus and you consciously chose a virtuous response? Perhaps it was choosing to listen with empathy when a friend was criticizing you, instead of immediately becoming defensive. Maybe it was deciding to speak calmly during a heated argument with a partner, rather than escalating with a hurtful remark. Or it could have been a professional situation where you chose to see feedback as constructive, even when it was delivered poorly. Revisit that memory now. Remember how it felt to exercise that power of choice. That feeling of strength, of self-mastery, is the essence of an unbreakable identity. It is proof that you are not a slave to your circumstances or your emotions. You are the one who holds the power to choose, and with every conscious decision, you are forging a character that can withstand any storm. Whose opinion truly holds more weight in your life, the quiet, steady voice of your own conscience, or the loud, ever-changing chorus of everyone else? This is the challenge at the heart of our 11th micro-decision, the conscious choice to seek inner approval over external validation. In a world that constantly rates, ranks, and reviews us, it's incredibly easy to outsource our self-worth, to hand over the keys to our happiness to the fickle opinions of others. The Stoics identified this people-pleasing tendency as a major source of anxiety and instability, because when your sense of value is tied to what others think of you, you are building your identity on a foundation of sand. Every compliment becomes a temporary high, and every criticism feels like a personal earthquake. The antidote is to recenter your compass inward, to make your own judgment based on your principles and virtues the final and only court of opinion that truly matters. This relentless pursuit of external approval creates a life of perpetual motion without any real progress. You find yourself constantly adjusting your behavior, your words, and even your goals to align with what you believe will win you praise or avoid disapproval. The problem is that you can never truly know what others are thinking, and their opinions are subject to change without notice. You become a puppet, and society holds all the strings. Your mood swings with the weather of other people's reactions, leaving you feeling powerless and exhausted. The Stoic goal is to cut those strings, not to become arrogant or dismissive of others, but to achieve a state of inner sovereignty. Your stability comes from knowing you have acted with integrity according to your own lights, regardless of whether that action is met with applause, silence, or even condemnation. This internal grounding is what makes you unshakable. The philosopher Epictetus, who prized freedom above all else, offered direct counsel on this. He advised, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Do not wish to be thought to know anything." This is a radical instruction. He is essentially saying that the path to true self-improvement requires making yourself indifferent to the external judgment that comes with it. If you try to learn a new skill but are terrified of looking foolish as a beginner, you will never start. If you hold back a truthful opinion because it might be unpopular, you sacrifice your authenticity for a false sense of belonging. Epictetus urges us to embrace the potential for being perceived as foolish if it means we are staying true to our journey of growth. The opinion of those who would mock a sincere effort is not an opinion worth valuing in the first place. Consider a practical scenario many of us face. Imagine you're in a workplace meeting where your team is discussing a new project. The popular, easy path forward is one that you know cuts corners ethically or compromises on quality for the sake of speed. Everyone else seems to be on board, and speaking up would make you the outlier, potentially painting a target on your back. The people-pleasing impulse is to stay quiet, to nod along, to seek the approval of the group by conforming. The Stoic micro-decision is to do the opposite. It is to weigh the decision not against its popularity, but against your internal principles. You might choose to respectfully voice your concern, not because you are trying to be contrarian, but because honesty and quality are values you refuse to compromise. The outcome of that meeting is outside your control. They may still choose the easier path, but your success is already secured the moment you choose to act in accordance with your character. You sought your own approval first, and in doing so, you maintained ownership of your integrity. This practice extends far beyond major ethical dilemmas into the smallest choices of daily life. It's the decision to wear the clothes you enjoy rather than the ones you think will impress others. It's the choice to listen to the music you love without worrying if it's considered cool. It's the freedom to pursue a hobby you're passionate about, even if your friends don't understand it. Each of these small acts is a vote for your own autonomy. They are declarations that your life is yours to live, not a performance for an audience whose taste you can never fully satisfy. The more you make these micro-decisions, the stronger your inner compass becomes, and the less power external validation has to pull you off your chosen course. So the challenge for you today is this: identify one decision, however seemingly small, where you typically look outward for approval. It might be what you order at a restaurant when you're with friends, the career path you're considering but are afraid others will criticize, or even just speaking up in a conversation to share a dissenting view. Now make the conscious choice to decide based solely on your own values and genuine desires. Don't do it for the camera, don't do it for the likes, and don't do it for the praise. Do it because it feels true to who you are and who you want to be. That single act of self-approval is a powerful reclaiming of your identity. It is you telling yourself that your opinion of you is the only one that ultimately defines your worth. What if every single barrier you encountered wasn't a wall meant to stop you, but a stepping stone designed to elevate you? This is the profound shift in perspective behind our 12th micro-decision. the conscious choice to use obstacles as fuel. The Stoics didn't just preach resilience in the face of difficulty. They advocated for a form of mental alchemy that actively transforms setbacks into advantages. They believed that within every impediment, every frustration, and every failure lies a hidden kernel of opportunity, but it's an opportunity you have to choose to see and seize. This isn't about naive positivity or denying the very real difficulty of a challenge. It's about adopting a more creative and strategic mindset, one that asks not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "How can I use this to become stronger, wiser, or more creative?" When you make this decision, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start becoming an architect of your own growth, using the very bricks meant to block your path to build a stronger foundation. This principle is perfectly encapsulated in one of the most famous lines from Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. Sit with that for a moment. The thing that is blocking you isn't just an annoyance to be overcome. It is itself the path forward. The obstacle is not the enemy of your goal. It is an essential, if unforgiving, part of achieving it. A river's current is an impediment to a swimmer going upstream, but it's also what forces the swimmer to develop stronger muscles and better technique. The resistance is what creates the strength. In the same way, the obstacles in your life are not deviations from your path. They are the very terrain of your path. They force you to adapt, to innovate, to dig deeper than you thought possible. And in doing so, they reveal capabilities you never knew you had. The obstacle doesn't just show you the way, it forges the person capable of walking it. History is filled with powerful examples of this principle in action. Consider the story of the inventor of the pacemaker, John Hopps. He was actually conducting research on hypothermia and noticed that if a heart stopped from being cooled, it could be restarted with mechanical stimulation. This was an accidental discovery, an obstacle in his original research path. But instead of dismissing it, he saw the hidden opportunity. He used that unexpected finding as fuel to pioneer a device that has since saved millions of lives. His obstacle became the way, or think of the author J.K. Rowling, who has spoken openly about her period of profound failure as a divorced, unemployed single mother living on state benefits. That period of struggle wasn't a distraction from her writing. It became the fuel for it, the empathy, the understanding of loss, and the raw emotional depth that she channeled into the Harry Potter series were forged in the crucible of those difficulties. The obstacle became the very source of her creative genius. You don't have to look for grand, historical examples to see this at work. Think about a personal failure you've experienced. Perhaps you were turned down for a job you really wanted. The immediate reaction is one of disappointment and self-doubt. But what if you reframed that obstacle as fuel? That rejection could be the catalyst that forces you to honestly assess your skills and identify a crucial gap you need to fill. It might push you to network more aggressively, leading you to a connection for an even better opportunity you didn't know existed. The rejection didn't block your career, it advanced it by forcing a necessary and productive detour. Even something as simple as a traffic jam, an obstacle to your punctuality, can be reframed. That unexpected 20 minutes in the car can become fuel for your mind, a chance to listen to an enlightening podcast, to sit with your own thoughts in silence, or to practice the patience you've been meaning to cultivate. The obstacle becomes an unexpected gift of time and reflection. This practice is about developing a sort of mental judo, where you use the momentum of the obstacle itself to propel you forward. It starts with a simple but powerful question you can ask yourself anytime you hit a roadblock. How can this problem actually help me? Maybe a budget cut forces your team to be more innovative and resourceful, leading to a leaner, more effective process. Maybe a disagreement with a friend forces a long overdue honest conversation, deepening the relationship in a way that comfortable silence never could. Maybe a personal limitation forces you to ask for help, strengthening your community and teaching you humility. There is always a way to use the obstacle. Your job is to find it, so let's make this practical right now. I want you to bring to mind one current obstacle in your life. It could be a professional setback, a relational tension, a financial pressure, or even a personal habit you're struggling to change. Now, instead of focusing on how it's holding you back, I want you to engage in a deliberate act of reframing. Ask yourself, how could this very obstacle be serving me? What strength is it forcing me to develop? What door might be closing so that a better one can open? What comfortable illusion is it shattering? What new path is it revealing that I was too comfortable to see before? Identify that one current challenge and decide right now to stop fighting it as an enemy and start engaging with it as a stern but valuable teacher. This single micro-decision to seek the advantage within the adversity is how you turn every barrier into a stepping stone on your path to an unbreakable identity. While others instinctively vocalize their complaints about what's missing or what's gone wrong, the Stoic makes a different and far more empowering micro-decision. They consciously and consistently practice gratitude. This 13th practice is not a passive feeling that occasionally washes over you when things are going well. It is an active, daily discipline, a deliberate recalibration of your attention from everything you lack to the abundance you already possess. In a world engineered to make you feel perpetual want through advertising, social comparison, and the constant churn of new products and trends, the Stoic act of gratitude is a radical act of mental rebellion. It is the decision to declare your current life, with all its imperfections, to be enough. This shift in focus is not about denying ambition or ignoring real problems. It's about building a foundation of contentment from which you can pursue growth from a place of strength and wholeness, rather than from a place of desperate inadequacy. The profound psychological power of this practice lies in its ability to rewire our natural negativity bias. Our minds are evolutionarily primed to scan for threats and problems, a survival mechanism that was essential on the savannah but is often counterproductive in the modern world. This bias means we readily notice the single critical comment amidst a sea of praise, or the one thing that went wrong in an otherwise perfect day. Gratitude is the conscious antidote to this automated pessimism. It forces your cognitive spotlight onto the good, the helpful, and the beautiful that you would otherwise overlook. By systematically counting your blessings, you are not ignoring life's difficulties. You are simply providing your brain with a more complete and accurate data set about your reality, one that proves that good things are also consistently present. This balanced perspective is the bedrock of resilience and enduring happiness. The Roman philosopher Seneca, a man of immense wealth and power who constantly reflected on its fleeting nature, offered timeless advice on this front. He wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient." The key phrase here is to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. This is the core of Stoic gratitude. It is the deep-seated recognition that while you may strive for more, you lack nothing essential for a good life right now. Your worth and your peace are not contingent on the next acquisition or achievement. This mindset allows you to pursue goals from a place of desire rather than desperation, and to weather setbacks without feeling as if your entire world has collapsed because your foundation of gratitude remains unshaken. Integrating this into your daily routine can be beautifully simple and requires no special tools. the most powerful method is the nightly gratitude journal. This isn't about crafting poetic paragraphs. It's a straightforward list of 3 to 5 specific things from your day that you are grateful for. The specificity is crucial. Instead of writing, "I'm grateful for my family," you might write, "I'm grateful for the way my daughter laughed uncontrollably at dinner tonight." Or, "I'm grateful for the supportive text message my partner sent me this afternoon." This granularity forces you to actively scan your day for positive moments, effectively training your brain to become better at noticing them in real time. For those who prefer a less formal practice, the mental acknowledgement of small wins works just as well. It could be taking 3 seconds to genuinely appreciate the warmth of the sun on your skin during a walk, the perfect taste of your morning coffee, or the simple fact that you arrived at work safely through traffic. These micro moments of thankfulness scattered throughout your day act like buoys of positivity that keep you afloat amidst life's inevitable waves. The true test and triumph of Stoic gratitude, however, comes not when life is easy, but when it is hard. It is relatively simple to feel thankful during a vacation or at a celebration. The discipline shines when you can find something to be grateful for even in the midst of difficulty. Perhaps you are facing a stressful deadline at work. Can you be grateful for the mental challenge and the opportunity to test your capabilities? Maybe you are recovering from an illness. Can you be grateful for the incredible resilience of your body and its ability to heal? This is not about pretending the difficulty doesn't exist. It is about holding the difficulty in one hand and a sliver of gratitude in the other, acknowledging that both can be true at once. This balanced perspective prevents any single problem from dominating your entire emotional landscape. So let's bring this discipline into the present moment with a direct and immediate challenge. I want you to press pause on this video for just 30 seconds. Yes, right now. In this moment, I want you to bring to mind and list 3 specific things you are genuinely grateful for. They don't have to be monumental. In fact, it's often the smallest, most ordinary things that hold the most power. The device you're using to watch this, which connects you to a world of knowledge. The chair you're sitting in that supports you, the air flowing easily into your lungs, or perhaps a recent kindness you received, a problem you don't have today, or a personal strength you often overlook. Identify those 3 things and sit with the feeling of gratitude for just a few seconds. Notice how it shifts your energy, your posture, even your breathing. This simple act is a micro-decision that anyone can make at any time to instantly reconnect with the abundance that is always available, waiting just beneath the surface of your awareness. Your wants may be enslaving you. Simplicity sets you free. This is the profound truth behind our 14th micro-decision, the conscious choice to simplify your desires. The relentless pursuit of more money, more status, more possessions, more experiences is often mistaken for ambition and progress. But the Stoics saw this endless wanting for what it truly is, a form of self-imposed slavery. Each new desire you cultivate is another chain that binds you to external things, another potential source of anxiety and disappointment if it remains unfulfilled. The path to genuine freedom and tranquility, therefore, is not through the endless acquisition of things, but through the systematic reduction of wants. It is about distinguishing between what you truly need for a good and virtuous life and what you merely want out of habit, social pressure, or a misguided belief that it will bring you lasting happiness. This process of simplification is not about deprivation, it is about liberation. It's about decluttering your inner world so that you have the space and clarity to focus on what actually matters. The mechanism here is one of reducing dependency. Every desire you hold for something outside of your control creates a vulnerability. If your happiness is contingent on getting a promotion, you hand over your emotional well-being to your boss's decision. If your sense of self-worth is tied to driving a certain car, you make yourself subject to the whims of the economy and the opinions of strangers. The Stoic practice of minimizing desires is the process of systematically identifying and dissolving these dependencies. It is the mental and practical work of becoming more self-contained, of finding that your primary source of satisfaction comes from within, from your character, your virtues, and your perspective, rather than from a volatile and unpredictable external world. This doesn't mean you can't enjoy external comforts. It simply means you refuse to be made miserable by their absence. You appreciate them while they are here, but you do not require them for your peace. The philosopher Epictetus, who began his life as a slave and understood true freedom better than most, framed this idea with breathtaking clarity. He said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Let that reorient your entire understanding of prosperity. True wealth is not an overflowing bank account. It is a mind that is content with what it has. A person who has millions but is constantly anxious about losing them or desperate to acquire more is, in the Stoic sense, profoundly poor. Meanwhile, a person with modest means who has cultivated a spirit of contentment and gratitude experiences a richness that no amount of money can buy. This shift from having much to wanting little is the most significant financial decision you will ever make, because it secures your peace against all market fluctuations and life's unpredictabilities. This principle translates powerfully into our modern lives through the practice of intentional decluttering, both physical and mental. Start with your physical environment. Look around your home. How many of your possessions do you truly use and cherish? How many are merely there out of obligation, a faded memory of a past desire, or the vague hope that you might need them someday? Each unnecessary item is not just taking up physical space, it is taking up mental energy. It represents a tiny thread of attachment and a small demand on your attention for cleaning, organizing, insuring, and worrying. The act of letting it go is not a loss. It is a small act of reclaiming your freedom. It is a declaration that you are no longer maintained by your things. But the more crucial decluttering happens in the realm of your mental desires. These are the silent, often unconscious wants that drive so much of our anxiety and striving. The desire for everyone to like you, the desire to be seen as successful by a certain group, the desire to never feel uncomfortable or bored, the desire to always be right. These mental desires are far more insidious than physical ones because they are invisible and often operate just below the surface of your awareness. To simplify here, you must first bring them into the light. You must audit your mind and ask, what silent expectations am I carrying that are setting me up for frustration? What image am I trying to uphold that is costing me my peace? The decision to simplify might mean letting go of the need to control a conversation, releasing the desire to have the last word in an argument, or accepting that some people simply will not understand or approve of your choices. Each time you identify and release one of these mental desires, you feel a palpable sense of lightness, as if you've put down a heavy bag you didn't even know you were carrying. The invitation this week is a practical and deeply personal one. I want you to choose one single area of your life, just one, where you feel the weight of complexity and desire. It could be your overflowing email inbox, your crowded calendar, your jam-packed closet, or even a specific relationship that feels fraught with unspoken expectations. Now make the micro-decision to simplify it. If it's your closet, spend 30 minutes pulling out everything you haven't worn in a year and donate it. If it's your calendar, look at next week and consciously cancel or decline one non-essential commitment that is draining you. If it's a relationship, have an honest conversation to clarify expectations and release the desire to make it something it's not. This single act of simplification is not just about creating order. It is a powerful statement about the life you want to live, one defined by purposeful choice rather than accumulating default, and by inner freedom rather than external dependency. How often do your words actively add value to a conversation or quietly subtract peace from a room? This simple but profound question lies at the heart of our 15th micro-decision, the conscious choice to speak with purpose. In the Stoic view, speech is not a trivial pastime. It is a powerful action that carries real consequences for our character and our relationships. The Stoics advocated for a disciplined approach to communication, guided by a simple three-part filter. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? And is it kind? This isn't about becoming silent or withholding your opinion, but about elevating the quality of your communication to reflect the integrity you are building within. Every time you open your mouth, you have an opportunity to either build trust and understanding or to create confusion and conflict. The decision to speak purposefully is therefore a direct application of your Stoic virtues. It is wisdom in choosing your words, justice in considering their impact on others, courage in speaking difficult truths when needed, and moderation in knowing when silence is the most powerful statement of all. The immense power of this practice comes from its ability to prevent needless suffering, both for yourself and for those around you. So much of our daily stress and interpersonal friction stems from careless speech, from gossip shared in a moment of boredom, from a sharp retort fired off in anger, or from a promise made lightly and broken easily. When you decide to run your words through the filter of truth, necessity, and kindness, you effectively become the guardian of your own peace. You avoid the regret that follows a misspoken word and the relational damage that takes much longer to repair. This discipline builds a formidable reputation for integrity. People learn that when you speak, they can trust your word implicitly, and they feel safe in your presence, knowing that you will not harm them with careless language. This kind of trust is the bedrock of any strong relationship, whether personal or professional. Marcus-Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this responsibility in his private writings. He counseled himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This directive is beautifully simple yet incredibly challenging to live by. He understood that his words as emperor carried immense weight and could literally change the course of lives, but his advice applies equally to all of us. Every time we speak, we are influencing our small corner of the world. To say something that is not true, whether an outright lie or a subtle exaggeration, corrodes our own character and misleads others. Aurelius is urging a radical honesty that begins with oneself. It means refusing to participate in gossip that you cannot verify, avoiding flattery you do not mean, and correcting yourself when you realize you have misspoken. This commitment to truthfulness in speech is a cornerstone of an unbreakable identity, because your internal and external worlds are finally in alignment. The most critical moment to practice this micro-decision is during emotional heat, when the urge to lash out or defend yourself feels overwhelming. Imagine a classic domestic scenario. You've had a long, frustrating day, and you walk into the kitchen to find that your partner has once again left a pile of dirty dishes in the sink. The automatic, impulsive response is to immediately voice your irritation. "Why do you always leave this mess for me? You never think about anyone else." These words, while perhaps feeling true in the moment, are spoken with the primary purpose of expressing blame. They are almost guaranteed to start a conflict, as they will put the recipient on the defensive. Now imagine applying the Stoic pause. You see the dishes, you feel the surge of annoyance, but you take a breath. You apply the filter. Is it true? Well, they did leave dishes, but always and never are exaggerations. Is it necessary? Will saying this right now improve the situation or just vent my frustration? Is it kind? The way I was about to phrase it is not kind. It's an accusation. Having paused, you can now choose a more purposeful and virtuous response. Perhaps you say nothing at all in that moment, deciding to address it later when you are calmer. Or perhaps you choose words that are both true and constructive. I'm feeling really overwhelmed by the mess in here. Would you be able to help me get these dishes done so we can relax together? This statement owns your feeling without casting blame, states a fact without exaggeration, and proposes a solution. The outcome of this interaction is entirely different because you chose to speak with purpose rather than impulse. You used your words not as weapons but as tools for building a more harmonious reality. This extends far beyond avoiding conflict. It is also about actively using your speech to add value. A purposeful word of genuine appreciation, a piece of thoughtful advice offered only when asked for, or a question that shows you are truly listening, these are all ways your speech can become a gift to others. The Stoic isn't a silent statue. They are a thoughtful contributor who understands that every sentence is a chance to make the world around them slightly better, calmer, and more truthful. The discipline lies in ensuring that your contribution is a net positive. So the challenge for you is both simple and profoundly difficult. I invite you to practice just one day of completely conscious, deliberate speech. This doesn't mean you must speak in philosophical maxims or remain silent. It simply means that before you speak, you make the micro-decision to pause for just 2 seconds and run your intended words through that Stoic filter. Ask yourself, is this true? Is this necessary for this moment and for this conversation? Is this a kind way to express this thought? You will be amazed at how many comments, opinions, and reactions you decide to simply let pass without giving them voice. You may find moments of silence where there used to be nervous chatter, and you will undoubtedly find opportunities to rephrase a thought into something more constructive and compassionate. This single day of practice will feel like a rigorous workout for your character, and it will reveal the incredible power you have to shape your reality not through grand actions, but through the purposeful choice of the next word you speak. Everything you currently possess, from your most cherished relationships to the very breath in your lungs, is on loan from the universe. None of it was yours to keep permanently, and all of it will eventually be returned. This is not a pessimistic thought, but a liberating and grounding truth at the heart of our 16th Stoic micro-decision, the conscious choice to accept impermanence. The Stoics understood that our deepest suffering does not stem from loss itself, but from our fierce, often unconscious, attachment to the idea that the people, possessions, and circumstances in our lives are permanent possessions. We build our sense of security on this illusion, and when change inevitably comes, as it always does, we feel as if the very foundation of our world is crumbling. The decision to embrace the transient nature of all things is the ultimate psychological preparation for reality. It is the practice of holding everything you love with an open palm, appreciating it fully while it is here, yet understanding that its presence is a temporary gift. This mindset doesn't diminish your enjoyment of life. It deepens it by removing the constant, low-grade anxiety of potential loss and replacing it with a profound, moment-to-moment gratitude for what is here right now. This practice of non-attachment is the key to fostering incredible adaptability and a lasting inner peace. When you internalize the fact that change is the only constant, you stop wasting energy fighting against the natural flow of life. You become like a flexible willow tree that bends in a storm rather than a rigid oak that risks being shattered. Challenges, endings, and unexpected turns are no longer perceived as personal failures or injustices from the universe. They are simply recognized as part of the deal of being alive. This acceptance allows you to navigate life's inevitable transitions with far greater grace and resilience. You can mourn a loss without being completely destroyed by it because you understood its temporary nature all along. You can adapt to a new reality more quickly because you weren't clinging quite so desperately to the old one. Your peace becomes less dependent on everything outside of you remaining exactly the same, and more rooted in your own ability to flow with whatever comes. The Roman philosopher Seneca, a master of observing the human condition, articulated this truth with elegant simplicity. He wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." This is a beautiful and gentle reminder that endings are not full stops, they are turning points. He also noted that nothing is permanent except change. This isn't a lament, it's a statement of fact, a law of the universe as reliable as gravity. The Stoic practice is to align our expectations with this law, rather than exhausting ourselves by arguing with it. When we stop expecting people and things to last forever, we start treating them with the reverence and attention they deserve in the present moment. We listen more intently to a friend because we know the conversation is fleeting. We appreciate our health more fully because we understand it is not guaranteed. We savor a beautiful sunset without needing to photograph it because we accept that its beauty is in its ephemeral nature. This is how acceptance of impermanence transforms into a richer, more engaged experience of being alive. Consider the simple, universal experience of a family gathering during the holidays. There is often a subtle, bittersweet feeling that hangs in the air, a sense that these moments are precious precisely because they are fleeting. The children will grow, the family dynamics will shift, and this exact configuration of people, laughter, and shared history will never occur again. The person who has not made peace with impermanence might feel a pang of sadness or even anxiety in this moment, trying desperately to cling to the feeling, and then feeling a sense of loss when the day ends. The person practicing this Stoic micro-decision, however, engages with the moment differently. They feel the same poignancy, but it fuels a deeper presence. They are not mentally fast-forwarding to the end or trying to freeze the moment. They are drinking it in completely, knowing that its temporary nature is what makes it so incredibly valuable. They hold the experience lightly, which allows them to actually enjoy it more fully, free from the weight of trying to make it last forever. This extends to every facet of our lives. The brand new car will get its first scratch. The vibrant health of youth will give way to the wisdom of age. The passionate early phase of a relationship will evolve into a deeper, more comfortable companionship. In each case, fighting this natural progression creates suffering. Flowing with it allows us to appreciate each phase for what it uniquely offers. The scratch on the car becomes a badge of use and adventure. The changing body becomes a testament to a life fully lived. The evolution of a relationship becomes an opportunity to discover new depths of love and commitment. Acceptance of impermanence allows us to find the beauty and value in every stage of the cycle, not just the one we prefer. To truly integrate this into your own life, I want you to engage in a brief but powerful reflection. Bring to mind one thing. It could be a person, a possession, an ability, or even a life circumstance that you deeply fear losing. It might be your financial security, your physical health, a particular relationship, or the stability of your career. Now, instead of pushing that fear away, lean into it gently. Acknowledge the truth. This thing you cherish is in fact temporary. It will not last forever in its current form. This acknowledgement is not meant to create anxiety, but to inspire a new way of relating to it. Now ask yourself, knowing that this is on loan, how can I hold it more lightly? How can I appreciate it more fully today without my enjoyment being poisoned by the fear of tomorrow's potential loss? This shift in perspective is the essence of the practice. It is the decision to trade the heavy burden of clinging for the light, liberating practice of grateful acceptance. By making this micro-decision, you are not preparing for loss. You are learning to fully live with what you have right now on its own perfect and temporary terms. Society rewards the trophy, the promotion, the final score, and the visible win. Stoicism, in a profound and countercultural shift, rewards the integrity of the effort itself. This 17th micro-decision asks you to make a crucial internal recalibration, to prioritize virtue over outcomes. For the Stoic, the only true measure of success is whether you acted with wisdom, justice, courage, and self-discipline in any given situation. The external result, whether you got the job, won the game, or received the praise, is classified as a preferred indifferent. It's nice to have, but it is not essential to your moral victory. Your triumph is secured the moment you choose the right action for the right reason, regardless of the consequence that follows. This philosophy completely liberates you from the tyranny of results, which are often influenced by luck, other people's choices, and countless variables outside your control. When you decouple your self-worth from unpredictable outcomes and tether it instead to the quality of your own choices, you build an identity that is truly unshakable, because no failed venture or external rejection can ever take your character away from you. This intense focus on the process rather than the prize is what builds unwavering integrity. If your sense of accomplishment is tied solely to winning, you will be tempted to cut corners, compromise your values, or become despondent when you lose. But if your goal is to run the race with maximum effort and sportsmanship, then you have already won before the starting gun even fires. Your satisfaction comes from knowing you gave your all and acted honorably. This mindset transforms your entire approach to challenges. You stop asking, "How can I win?" and start asking, "How can I act in a way that I will be proud of, no matter what happens?" This shift ensures that even in defeat, you emerge with your character not only intact but strengthened. You collect data from the loss, what can be learned about strategy or preparation, but you do not internalize it as a judgment on your worth. This is the foundation of resilience, the understanding that a virtuous effort is never a waste, even when it doesn't yield the desired fruit. The philosopher Epictetus, who valued freedom and integrity above all else, provided the perfect guidance for this. He said, "In the gymnasium, it's not winning that's important, it's being the sort of person who does everything to win. That's what really matters, that's the good." Then he adds the crucial Stoic twist: even if we never win at all, let that sink in. The ultimate victory is in the quality of your striving. It is in being the person who trains with dedication, who plays by the rules, who respects their opponent, and who gives absolutely everything they have. The final score is merely an event. The person you became in the process of competing is your enduring achievement. This is how you win by Stoic standards. You win the inner battle of staying true to your principles against the external pressure to succeed at any cost. Consider a powerful, real-world application of this. Imagine two salespeople are competing for a single, large promotion. The first is fixated solely on the outcome, getting the job. They might be tempted to take credit for a colleague's idea, badmouth their competitor to the boss, or fudge their sales numbers to look more successful. If they get the promotion, they win in the world's eyes, but they have compromised their integrity in the process. If they fail, they are left with nothing but bitterness and a damaged reputation. The second salesperson, guided by Stoic principles, defines success differently. Their goal is to perform their job with excellence, to be honest in all their reporting, to help their teammates, and to present their own ideas with clarity and passion. They want the promotion, but they are not willing to sacrifice their character to get it. If they are offered the job, they can accept it with the clean satisfaction of having earned it ethically. If the other candidate is chosen, they can genuinely congratulate them and know, without a doubt, that they lost nothing of true value. They conducted themselves with virtue from start to finish, and that is a success that no one can ever take from them. Their identity remains unbroken. This principle applies to every arena of life, not just the professional one. It's the student who studies diligently and refuses to cheat, knowing that their understanding of the material is the real prize, not just the grade on the transcript. It's the athlete who plays fair even when the referee isn't looking, because competing with honor is more important than the medal. It's the parent who focuses on being patient and present with their child, rather than obsessing over whether their child becomes a prodigy or a star. The virtuous effort of parenting is the success, regardless of the specific outcomes the child achieves. In each case, the focus on the ethical process provides a steady compass that guides you through the fog of external expectations and unpredictable results. To truly integrate this into your life, I encourage you to perform a simple but profound audit of your recent actions. Look back over the past week and identify one situation where you are working toward a specific goal. It could be a work project, a fitness goal, a personal conversation, or a creative endeavor. Now, I want you to gently shift your evaluation. Instead of asking, "Did I achieve my desired outcome?" ask yourself a different set of questions. Did I act with integrity throughout the process? Did I stay true to my principles, even when it was difficult or inconvenient? Was my effort full and sincere? This is not about judging yourself harshly, but about recalibrating your internal scorecard. By making this micro-decision to measure your worth by your virtue and not your victories, you are building an identity that is immune to the ups and downs of fortune. You are becoming someone who finds their success not in the applause of the crowd, but in the quiet, unwavering knowledge that you did your best and you did it right. What if you made the conscious choice to say no to a craving today, not out of punishment, but as a form of training for your own resilience? This is the essence of our 18th micro-decision, the deliberate practice of self-denial. In a culture that constantly encourages us to indulge every impulse and seek immediate gratification, the Stoic act of voluntarily skipping a pleasure is a radical and empowering exercise. It is not about embracing austerity for its own sake or about labeling certain enjoyments as bad. It is about proving to yourself through direct action that you are not a slave to your desires. This occasional, mindful act of saying no is like weightlifting for your willpower. Each time you forego a comfort you could easily have, you are strengthening the mental muscle of self-discipline and reminding yourself that your peace and happiness are not contingent on external things. You are building an inner fortress that cannot be easily stormed by every passing whim or advertisement. The profound benefit of this practice is the cultivation of temperance, one of the 4 cardinal Stoic virtues. Temperance is the wise regulation of your appetites. It is the golden mean between overindulgence and complete abstinence. By periodically practicing self-denial, you are not trying to eliminate pleasure from your life. You are simply ensuring that you remain the master of your pleasures, rather than letting them become your master. This builds a crucial buffer against impulsivity. When you are accustomed to pausing before giving in to a desire, you create a space for choice. That craving for a sugary snack, that itch to check your phone for the 20th time, that urge to make an impulsive purchase, these impulses lose their automatic power over you. You learn to observe them, acknowledge them, and then consciously decide whether acting on them truly serves your greater goals. This is the difference between living on autopulse and living with intention. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, constantly reminded himself of the value of this practice. He wrote, "Abstain from the things that are not yours to have." And the most important thing you can abstain from is your negative reaction to the things you cannot control. But he also spoke of a simpler, more physical form of abstention. He advised himself to practice poverty, to remember that he could live with very little, that he could be content with simple food, a hard bed, and coarse clothing. His purpose wasn't to live in squalor, but to inoculate himself against the fear of loss. By voluntarily experiencing a small taste of lack, he proved to himself that his core well-being was independent of his immense wealth and power. He was reminding himself that he could be happy without the palace, not just within it. This practice ensured that his character remained stronger than his circumstances. Integrating this into your modern life doesn't require drastic asceticism. It is about finding small, manageable opportunities to flex your discipline muscle. It could be the decision to skip dessert after dinner one night this week, not because the dessert is unhealthy, but simply to prove to yourself that you can. It could be declaring a 1-hour period each evening as a digital sunset, where you leave your phone in another room and engage with the physical world around you. It might be choosing water instead of a second glass of wine, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or even opting for a few minutes of silence during your commute instead of filling the void with a podcast or music. The specific act is less important than the conscious intention behind it. You are not depriving yourself, you are gifting yourself a small victory of will. Each successful act of self-denial is a deposit into your psychological bank account of resilience, a resource you can draw upon when life presents you with a challenge that requires real discipline. The true power of this micro-decision is revealed in its cumulative effect. Each time you successfully deny a minor impulse, you are not just avoiding a cookie or a scroll through social media. You are reinforcing a new identity for yourself. You are building the self-image of a person who is in command of their choices, a person who is not easily swayed by convenience or comfort. This identity then begins to influence larger decisions. The person who practices saying no to a late-night snack finds it easier to say no to distractions at work. The person who can sit with the minor discomfort of boredom without immediately reaching for their phone builds the capacity to sit with the larger discomfort of anxiety or sadness without immediately seeking an unhealthy escape. The small no becomes practice for the big yes, the yes to your long-term goals, your values, and your deepest priorities. So the challenge for this week is direct and personal. I want you to choose one small, daily pleasure, something you genuinely enjoy and partake in regularly, and make the conscious decision to voluntarily forego it for a short period. It could be for one day or for the entire week. Choose something that feels slightly challenging but completely achievable. Perhaps it's your morning coffee, your afternoon sweet treat, your habit of scrolling through social media before bed, or even the automatic yes you say to every request for your time. Tell yourself clearly why you are doing this, not as a punishment but as a training exercise for your own freedom. Pay close attention to the impulse when it arises. Notice the rationalizations your mind creates to convince you to give in, and then, gently but firmly, reaffirm your choice. This single, small act of self-denial is a powerful declaration that you are the author of your life and that your will is stronger than your wants. See the world as it is, not as you fear or wish it to be. This is the essence of our 19th micro-decision, a practice that bridges ancient Stoic wisdom and modern mindfulness. the conscious choice to observe without judgment. So much of our daily distress is not generated by the events themselves, but by the layer of instant interpretation and emotional labeling we automatically add on top. We don't just see a colleague working quietly, we see them ignoring us and feel a sting of rejection. We don't just hear a neutral comment from a partner, we hear criticism and prepare a defense. The Stoic practice of detached observation is the process of learning to strip away that second layer of story and reaction, to perceive the raw facts of a situation before your emotions and biases have a chance to color them. This is not about becoming cold or unfeeling. It is about creating a crucial moment of pause between what happens and how you decide to feel about it, allowing you to respond from a place of clarity rather than react from a place of conditioned habit. The immense power of this practice lies in its ability to dramatically reduce emotional reactivity, which is often the primary source of conflict and inner turmoil. When you observe an event judgmentally, you are no longer just seeing the event. You are seeing your own fears, insecurities, and past wounds projected onto it. This fused perspective feels like one single reality, but it is actually a mixture of fact and fiction. The practice of non-judgmental awareness is the mental tool that allows you to separate the two. You learn to see the clear, objective data of a situation, the words that were spoken, the actions that were taken, and then, as a separate and conscious step, you choose how you will interpret that data. This creates a space of freedom and choice where before there was only automatic pilot. You move from being a prisoner of your first impression to being the curious investigator of your own experience. The philosopher Epictetus provided the perfect mental model for this when he taught, "Don't be disturbed by the stories your mind tells you, stick to the facts." He understood that our minds are meaning-making machines, constantly weaving narratives out of raw sensory input. The problem is that these narratives are often inaccurate, overly dramatic, and heavily influenced by our mood and past experiences. His instruction is to consciously interrupt this storytelling process. When you feel a negative emotion rising, instead of getting swept away by the story, "My boss is trying to undermine me," you pause and force yourself to return to the bare, observable facts. "My boss said the project timeline needs to be moved up, that is all." By sticking to the facts, you drain the situation of its imagined emotional charge and allow yourself to see it with a cool, clear head. This clarity is what enables a wise and effective response, rather than a messy, emotional reaction. Consider a practical scenario that plays out in workplaces and homes every single day. You're in a team meeting and a colleague critiques a specific part of a proposal you worked on. The immediate, judgmental observation might sound like this in your head: "There they go again, always targeting my ideas. They clearly don't respect my work and are trying to make me look bad in front of everyone. I need to defend myself and discredit their point right now." This interpretation is laden with judgment, assumption, and emotional reactivity. It will almost certainly lead to a defensive, sharp retort that escalates tension and derails productive discussion. Now contrast that with the practice of observing without judgment. You hear the exact same words from your colleague. Instead of immediately adding the layer of story, you consciously choose to become a neutral observer. You note the facts. "My colleague stated that they believe Section 3 of the proposal could present a logistical challenge. They suggested an alternative approach." That's it. You have observed the event without contaminating it with your interpretation. From this calm, clear space, you can now choose a response. You might ask a clarifying question. "Can you help me understand the specific logistical issue you're anticipating?" This response, born from detached observation, opens a dialogue instead of a conflict. It allows you to see the feedback as potentially valuable data rather than a personal attack. You might still disagree, but you will do so from a place of reasoned argument, not wounded ego. The event was the same, but your method of observing it completely changed the outcome. This skill is like a muscle that grows stronger with repetition, and the best time to train it is not in the heat of a major crisis, but in the minor irritations of daily life. The next time you feel yourself getting annoyed in traffic, or frustrated by a long line, or impatient with a family member, see it as your training ground. Your prompt for today is to choose one potentially stressful situation and make the micro-decision to engage your observer mode. When you feel that familiar surge of irritation, pause. Take a mental step back. Try to describe the situation to yourself as a completely neutral third party might, using only objective facts. The car in front of me is driving below the speed limit. That is a fact. This grocery line is not moving. That is a fact. My child is asking me the same question for the third time. That is a fact. Notice how, when you stick to the facts, the emotional charge around the event begins to dissipate on its own. You are not suppressing the emotion. You are simply realizing that the emotion was never in the event itself. It was in the judgmental story you instantly added to it. By practicing this simple act of detached observation, you are not building a wall between yourself and the world. You are building a window of clarity through which you can see the world and your place in it with profound and peaceful accuracy. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the deliberate choice to take action in spite of it. This 20th micro-decision cuts to the very heart of Stoic virtue, reframing bravery not as a magical state of fearlessness possessed by a select few, but as a practice available to anyone in any moment. The Stoics did not believe the goal was to eliminate fear. They saw it as a natural, hardwired human emotion, a physiological response to perceived threat that is often beyond our immediate control. The goal, instead, is to change our relationship with fear, to hear its signal, acknowledge its presence, and then consciously decide whether its warning is valid or if it is simply an outdated alarm system trying to protect you from a challenge that would actually help you grow. Courage is the act of making that fear your passenger rather than your driver. You allow it to be in the car, you may even hear it shouting directions, but your hands remain firmly on the wheel, steering your actions based on your values, not your apprehensions. This distinction is everything. If you wait for fear to disappear before you act, you will be waiting your entire life for a day that never comes. The most meaningful endeavors in life, pursuing a dream, starting a difficult conversation, standing up for a principle, loving someone deeply, all involve an element of risk and uncertainty, and therefore they all naturally trigger fear. The Stoic does not see this fear as a stop sign. They see it as a landmark indicating they are on the right path, heading towards something that truly matters. Acting despite fear is how you expand your personal frontiers. Each time you do it, you prove to yourself that you are larger than your anxieties, that you can feel the tremble in your hands and the knot in your stomach and still move forward. This repeated action is what forges an unbreakable identity, because you are building a history of self-trust and a reputation with yourself as someone who shows up when it counts. Seneca, who wrote extensively on the nature of fear and courage, framed this mastery beautifully. He said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." This acknowledges the sheer weight of existence and the daily fears we all navigate, but he also offered a more active definition, stating that bravery is the ability to master one's fears, not the absence of them. Mastery does not mean annihilation. It means understanding fear's origins, listening to its message, and then integrating that information into a conscious, value-driven decision. A master sailor does not curse the wind, they learn to adjust their sails to use it. In the same way, you can learn to use the energy of fear, the adrenaline, the heightened awareness, to sharpen your focus and fuel your action, rather than letting it paralyze you into inaction. Consider a common scenario that fills many with dread: the necessity of speaking up in a meeting to voice a contrary opinion or to challenge a plan you believe is flawed. The fear is visceral. Your heart might pound, your palms may sweat, your mind races with visions of being dismissed or ridiculed. The automatic, fear-driven response is to stay silent, to shrink back into your chair, to tell yourself it's not worth the risk. The courageous Stoic response is to feel all of that physiological and mental turmoil and to act anyway. You take a quiet breath to steady yourself. You acknowledge the fear directly. I am afraid of being wrong and looking foolish. And then you make a values-based decision. But my value is integrity, and staying silent would mean compromising that. Therefore, I will speak. You raise your hand and you offer your perspective calmly and clearly. The outcome is secondary. The primary victory has already been won the moment you chose to act in alignment with your virtue, despite the chorus of fear screaming at you to do the opposite. That single act, however small it seems, is a monumental deposit into your account of self-respect. This principle applies to every facet of life where growth is waiting on the other side of comfort. It's the fear of rejection that stops you from asking someone on a date, the fear of failure that prevents you from applying for a new job, the fear of embarrassment that keeps you from trying to learn a new language or instrument as an adult. In each case, the Stoic micro-decision is identical. Recognize the fear, thank your nervous system for trying to protect you, and then gently but firmly proceed with the action that your wiser self knows is necessary for your growth. You are not trying to conquer the fear, you are striving to build a partnership with it where you remain in charge of the final decisions. So the question for you now is immediate and personal. Look inward and identify one specific fear that is currently holding you back from an action that would align with your values or your goals. It doesn't have to be a monumental, life-altering fear. In fact, it's often the small, daily fears that wield the most power because we continually yield to them. Is it the fear of a difficult conversation you've been avoiding with a family member? The fear of posting your creative work online where it can be seen and judged. The fear of walking into a gym for the first time. Name it. Now, make the conscious decision to act against it today. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but today. Choose one small, tangible step you can take that would move you through that fear. Send the text to start that difficult conversation. Hit the publish button on that piece of writing. Walk through the doors of that gym and simply ask for information. The action itself is almost secondary. The primary goal is to prove to yourself, through direct experience, that you can feel the fear and still choose your values. That is the alchemy that transforms anxiety into agency and forges an identity that is truly unbreakable. How much of your precious mental energy is quietly siphoned away each day by the simple act of complaining? Not just the big, dramatic grievances, but the constant low-grade murmur about the weather, the traffic, the slow internet, the incompetent colleague, the political climate, the endless list of things we cannot control. This brings us to our 21st micro-decision, a practice of immense practical power. The conscious choice to limit your complaints. The Stoics understood that complaining is far more than just verbal venting. It is a mental habit that actively shapes your perception of the world and your place in it. Every time you vocalize a complaint about an external circumstance you cannot change, you are doing two damaging things simultaneously. First, you are reinforcing your own sense of helplessness, etching the neural pathways of victimhood ever deeper. Second, you are diverting your finite focus and energy away from the one thing you can always control, your response. Complaining is the antithesis of agency. It is the act of pointing a finger outward when the real power for change almost always lies within. This habit creates a self-perpetuating cycle of negativity. When you complain, you are not merely describing an unpleasant reality. You are actively amplifying it both for yourself and for anyone within earshot. You are training your brain to become even more adept at scanning for future problems and injustices, effectively putting on a pair of glasses that only allow you to see what's wrong. This doesn't mean you must pretend everything is perfect. The Stoic isn't a Pollyanna, they are a realist. The key difference is that the Stoics' realism is focused on solution and acceptance, not on impotent grievance. They quickly assess a situation. Is this within my control? If yes, they act. If no, they work to accept it with grace, understanding that railing against immutable reality is as futile as shouting at the rain. Complaining is that shouting. It is the expenditure of emotional energy for zero return, a bad investment that always yields a loss of peace. Marcus-Aurelius, who had more legitimate reasons to complain than most of us ever will, constantly counseled himself against this very habit. In his private meditations, he wrote, "Don't be overheard complaining, not even to yourself." This instruction is incredibly profound. He's not just talking about public grousing. He's highlighting the danger of the internal complaint, the silent whine that plays on a loop in our own mind. This internal narrative is often more damaging than anything we say out loud because it forms the unchallenged background music of our lives. Aurelius is urging a radical ownership of our inner dialogue. He understood that to complain, even privately, is to add to the noise of the world's chaos and to voluntarily surrender your own hard-won tranquility. Your silent complaints are the seeds of your public misery. Breaking this cycle requires a conscious shift from passive complaint to active engagement. The next time you feel the urge to complain about something, a delayed flight, a rude customer, a broken appliance, pause and use that impulse as a trigger for a more stoic response. Ask yourself the foundational Stoic question: what aspect of this situation is within my control? Your flight is delayed. You cannot control the airline's mechanics or the weather. Your sphere of control includes your reaction. You can choose to use the unexpected time to read a book, catch up on work, or simply practice patience. You can politely ask the gate agent for information, but you cannot demand the plane take off. The rude customer is behaving poorly. You cannot control their mood or upbringing. Your sphere of control includes your professionalism. You can choose to respond with calm courtesy, diffusing the situation rather than escalating it, and then perhaps later reflect on how to better handle such interactions in the future. The act of identifying your sphere of control instantly transforms a complaint into a strategic assessment. It moves you from the powerless question of, "Why is this happening to me?" to the empowered question of, "What can I do with this?" This practice is about reclaiming your narrative authority. Instead of narrating your life as a series of things that are being done to you, you begin to narrate it as a series of challenges you are navigating through. The story changes from, "My commute was a nightmare today because of all the terrible drivers," to, "Today's heavy traffic was a great test of my patience, and I used the time to listen to an educational podcast." The events are identical, but the second story is empowering and leaves you feeling stronger, not victimized. You are the author of your experience, and limiting complaints is how you ensure you are writing a story of resilience and agency, not one of helplessness and frustration. The challenge for you is both simple and profoundly difficult. I dare you to go a full 24 hours without complaining. This isn't about suppressing your feelings or ignoring real problems. It is about becoming hyper-aware of your speech and your internal monologue. The moment you catch yourself starting to complain, whether out loud or in your head, you stop. You pause, you perform that quick audit of control, and then you either take a small, actionable step toward a solution, or you consciously choose to accept the situation and release it. You will be astonished at how often you default to complaint without even realizing it, and even more astonished by the sheer amount of mental energy you reclaim when you stop. This single day of vigilance will feel like a masterclass in mental discipline, and it will reveal the incredible peace that becomes available when you decide that your voice will no longer be used to describe the problem, but to enact the solution. Imagine ending each day with a clean slate, where the successes and stumbles, the joys and irritations are all gently laid to rest, leaving your mind quiet and your spirit ready for renewal. This is the final, vital micro-decision in forging your unbreakable identity, the conscious practice of granting yourself closure each night. The Stoics understood that just as we need to prepare our minds for the day ahead, we also need to properly conclude the day that has passed. Without this intentional act of closure, we risk carrying the unresolved weight of yesterday's events into tomorrow's fresh potential. We toss and turn, rehashing conversations, agonizing over mistakes, or pre-living tomorrow's challenges, effectively robbing ourselves of the restorative sleep that is essential for resilience. This nightly practice is not about erasing the day, but about processing it, learning from it, and then ceremoniously letting it go, ensuring you wake up unburdened and present for whatever comes next. This act of release is the ultimate form of mental hygiene. It creates a sacred boundary between your waking life and your rest, preventing the concerns of one from contaminating the peace of the other. Think of your mind as a workspace. If you finish your work for the day but leave all your tools, papers, and projects scattered across the desk, you will return to a scene of chaos and overwhelm the next morning. But if you take just a few minutes to tidy up, to file away what's complete, and to make a simple note of where to begin tomorrow, you create a sense of order and calm. Ending the day with closure is the psychological equivalent of that tidying up. It allows your subconscious mind to work on problems without the frantic noise of conscious anxiety, and it grants your nervous system the deep rest it needs to rebuild your strength for the challenges ahead. You are not running from the day's events. You are simply declaring that their time is now over. Seneca, in his profound letters, offered a beautiful and somewhat startling metaphor for this practice. He wrote, "We should conduct ourselves thus. Our sleep should be a rehearsal for death." At first, this might sound morbid, but its true meaning is incredibly liberating. Just as death is the ultimate release and surrender, so too should our nightly sleep be a conscious release of all the day's cares, a small surrender of our grip on control. Each night, we have the opportunity to practice letting go of everything: our worries, our identities, our plans, and trusting that we will pick up what is necessary again in the morning. By rehearsing this small, nightly release, we not only improve the quality of our sleep, but also become more adept at the art of letting go in our wider lives. We practice non-attachment not as a philosophical concept, but as a practical, daily ritual that makes us lighter and more resilient. Implementing this can be as simple or as elaborate as you wish, but its power lies in its consistency. A wonderfully effective ritual is to take just 3 to 5 minutes before you get into bed to perform a mental download. Keep a small notebook by your bedside. Take a few deep breaths and then write down 2 simple lists. First, write down any lingering worries, unresolved tensions, or tasks for tomorrow that are swirling in your mind. The very act of externalizing them onto paper tells your brain, "It is safe to let this go for now. It is captured and will be here in the morning." Second, Write down one or two small things from the day that you are grateful for or proud of. A moment of patience, a completed task, a moment of connection. This ends the day on a note of accomplishment and abundance. Then, as you close the notebook, consciously visualize yourself closing the book on the entire day. You might even say a short phrase to yourself like, "The day is complete," or "I release what does not serve my rest." This physical and mental signal tells your entire being that it is now time to shift modes from doing to being, from thinking to resting. The true beauty of this practice is that it doesn't require you to have solved your problems before you sleep. It only requires you to temporarily set them down. You are giving yourself permission to be a work in progress, and trusting that a rested, clearer-minded version of you will be far better equipped to handle those problems after a good night's sleep. This single micro-decision, practiced nightly, compounds into a profound sense of inner peace. You stop living in a continuous, stressful loop of days blurring into each other and start experiencing each day as a distinct chapter, with a clear beginning and a purposeful end. So tonight, before you let your head hit the pillow, I encourage you to gift yourself this act of closure. Take just 3 minutes, write it down, acknowledge it, and then release it. Let your sleep be a true rehearsal for the tranquility and acceptance that defines an unbreakable spirit, and wake up tomorrow ready to write a new page with a clean slate and a rested heart. And so we arrive at the end of our exploration, not with a finish line, but with a starting point. These 22 micro-decisions are not a checklist to be completed, but a lifelong practice to be lived. Each one on its own is a single thread, a choice to own your judgment, to embrace a small discomfort, to focus on your sphere of control, to reflect on your day. But woven together day after day, these threads form the unbreakable fabric of a Stoic identity. This is not about a single, monumental transformation that happens overnight. It is about the quiet, cumulative power of small, consistent actions, the gentle steering of your ship degree by degree until you find yourself on an entirely new course, guided by your own inner compass. The journey always circles back to the core themes we've returned to again and again. It begins and ends with the profound understanding that you have absolute control over your judgments and your responses, and that this is the only control you truly need. It is forged in the fire of voluntary adversity, building a resilience that doesn't just endure hardship but learns to use it as fuel. And it is anchored in an unwavering alignment with virtue, where your internal integrity becomes the only measure of success that matters. These are not separate ideas, they are a single, interlocking system for a life of purpose and peace. An unbreakable identity isn't one that never feels doubt or fear. It is one that knows how to navigate those storms without losing its way, because its foundation is built on principles that no external storm can ever erode. Marcus-Aurelius, our guide through much of this, left us with a perfect thought to carry forward. He reminded himself, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is the ultimate summation of our journey. Every single one of these 22 decisions is a way to practice that conversion, to take the raw material of your daily life, with all its frustrations and challenges, and convert it into the very substance of your strength. Your character is not built in spite of the obstacles, it is built by them through the daily micro-decisions you make in response. The most important step is the first one you take from here. Don't feel overwhelmed by the totality of the list. The Stoic path is walked one single, deliberate step at a time, so I want you to make one final micro-decision right now. Look back over these 22 practices and choose just one that resonates with you most deeply in this moment, or perhaps one that you feel would be the most challenging and therefore the most rewarding. Maybe it's the decision to practice negative visualization to cultivate gratitude, or the decision to institute a 5-second pause before reacting. Whatever it is, commit to focusing on that one single practice for the next week. Make it your daily ritual, your personal training ground. Watch how this one small change begins to subtly influence everything else. Master that one thread, and you will naturally find yourself starting to weave the others into your life. This is the beginning of your own practice, your own journey toward an unbreakable self. If you found this roadmap valuable and you want to continue exploring Stoic wisdom for modern life, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. We delve into these principles every week, providing practical guidance to help you live with more courage, clarity, and calm. Thank you for investing this time in yourself. Remember, the power to shape your identity lies not in a grand, distant future, but in the small, conscious choice you make today. Choose